You're locked in to Independent Grind on Dash Radio. Tune in Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern for the latest hip-hop news, music, and interviews. Independent Grind only on Dash Radio, baby. Tech 9!
All right, well, we're kicking off. We're here with King Zeus. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, man. What's the word?
Just hanging out, you know. Real quick, I know you're from New York. Grammys were just there. Did you do anything special? Were you there? What was that experience like?
No, we played a couple of the little parties and after parties and all that stuff. So, you know, it was kind of chaotic in the city.
Did you run into anybody crazy or anything?
I mean, the craziest thing I ran into, like, the craziest person is probably Riri. Like, I ain't gonna lie, I turned into a kid in the candy store when I saw her. I was like, oh Lord, like looking like and stacked, boy. I'm like, oh God. I can't even know how to put that into words. Like, I'm like, oh nah, she's like a superhero.
Yeah, well, she gets me in when I'm watching on TV, so I can't imagine seeing her in person. I'd probably just fucking end it right there. It's a way to go out. Yeah. Just seeing Rihanna. But yeah, so you're from New York, I guess. Obviously, hip hop's birthplace. What's that been like just in terms of influences and stuff? Who were some of those being in the hub of hip hop, like New York? Who's been sort of an influence on you?
I mean, I'm from Harlem, to be exact. So, like, you know, growing up in Harlem, like, you know, the people that we looked up to was, Diplomats, of course, Cam, Mace, you know what I'm saying? And then, you know, obviously, like, doing your research and all, like, Big L, you know, I listened to some of his early tapes and all that stuff. Like, you know, you get inspired from that. But, I mean, I started out as a producer. I started out as a producer making beats. And, like, that's where, like, my ear comes from. So, like, I was always influenced by, like, the Dr. Dre's of the world, like, you know what I'm saying, the Swiss Beats, you know what I'm saying, like the Andre 3000s of the world and stuff. So, like, those are the people that, like, you know what I'm saying, really got me going and really, you know, opened my eyes as far as the music thing is concerned.
Around what time did you start taking, like, producing seriously?
Because I went to college in Wisconsin, so I injured my Achilles. I tore my Achilles. I had a football scholarship, so I tore my Achilles. And I had to, like, I was in school and I was kind of like just super bored. So I needed to get back into something. I needed to attach myself to something. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, I started basically, I used my refund money to get me a laptop. And I got my little beat machine, that's the name of the Native Instruments, John. And I just was cranking, you know what I'm saying? And then as I came home from school, you know, when you come home from school, I needed, like, a job and all that. Like, I needed to do something. But at the same time, I was still, like, perfecting the craft. And then, honestly, like, as I was sitting there, like, trying to send the beats out, I wasn't nowhere near where I needed to be at. But as I was sitting there making my beats and stuff, I was, you know, sending my beats out and I wasn't getting no response back. Like, nobody was really rocking with my beats like that. So at that point, that's when I started to, you know, develop a pen. I started writing to my beats and stuff like that. And then as that went on, then that's when I started to actually record. And then as that went on, then that's when I started to find my voice. So I want to say within the last, like, 2 years, like, I've been going really, you know, strong as an artist.
Did you start out kind of like how you did with producing, where you just kind of, like, went out and got your own equipment and started doing it? Or have you always kind of been in an actual studio and stuff?
Actual studio stuff. Like, I mean, granted, like, once I started to actually write and record to my beats, I was doing the whole, you know, paying the $50, $100 an hour. And it's, you know, the city studios is expensive, so I was doing that whole thing. And then as I was doing that, I was performing also as an artist, and I ran into llmind, the producer. And at that point, that's when I started working with him, and, you know, we had the studio on deck with him. So that's when, you know, that's when that whole, like, studio time thing kind of went out the window a little bit, because they had to pay at that point. Now I do, because, you know.
llmind's like a legend. What'd you learn from him? Like, how did he influence your production? Or I guess what was the biggest thing you learned from him?
llmind is a genius. Like, llmind, I watched him, like, go from renting the studio out to, you know, just, you know, having his own. So being able to witness that transition, and then starting his, you know, his entity, the Roseville Music Group thing, like, watching him start that, I was able to soak up a lot of game on how to, what it takes to be successful on that end, on the production and like the behind the scenes end of the music business. So yeah, that was one of the things. And I just saw his work ethic. Like his work ethic was amazing. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm talking about every single day cranking, and he just cranked all day. Like whether he use it or not, it doesn't matter. He's working. And like his work ethic is like one of the crazy, craziest I've seen, being in like around anybody in the music business. So he's always thinking about new ways to push the culture forward, so that's one of the things I really admire about him.
I know something I love about him I think is super interesting is he's one of those first guys that sort of started selling his own kits and doing that kind of stuff.
I actually got a kit out. Well, I actually had a kit out there. I had when I was with the Roseville Music Group, I was selling my ad libs.
Nice.
Yeah, my ad libs. It was called the King Grunt. So that was the first time. That's what I'm saying. Like all of those little things right there. And, I wasn't making no money from from rap or nothing like that. So just to be able to see like something like that, you can make some bread off of. It was crazy to me. And like he gave me that idea. I was like, oh shit, I could do this. So. That was dope, man. Like he was telling them, like watching that whole grind, I was like, it's a grind. Like, so I was just able to apply a lot of the things I learned with him and applied it to what I got going on now.
Are you still like producing a lot, or are you more focused on rapping, or what's the give and take there?
Yeah, no, I'm 100% rapper, 100% artist. I mean, I can't help the fact that like my last two projects, my last two EPs, I executive produced, right? Like I didn't actually make the beats, but I line my projects up. I pay for my own studio time. Like I paid my producers and stuff like that. Like my graphic design, like I did everything. So I selected my beats. So I'm always gonna be like that's my ultimate goal. Because I just love music. But as of right now, all in. I'm an artist. I'm rapping.
Did you ever consider, I know we talk a lot of artists who, want to go to LA or that's the kind of scene, but New York's obviously like always been has a scene there. Did you ever consider leaving or going anywhere else, or did you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like, but it's the home, it's the Mecca. And yeah, like I'm always open to it if it ever comes down and if it ever makes sense. But this is my home, and I feel like you conquer the city, you conquer the world. So
as far as
that's why I stand with it.
As far as like your hometown and where you're at in New York, do you feel like the scene is like supportive out there and that there is a really big scene, or just what's kind of your thoughts on it for like shows and doing all that?
I mean, granted, you see it I've seen it in a couple other cities, like to where like the whole underground scene is just like super the wave. Like that's just what it is. I think that the city do got an underground scene. It's just a matter of like cats just revamping their way of thinking. Because you go to Williamsburg, you go to Bushwick, like that scene, like it's out there. You know what I'm saying? Like, the culture is definitely out there, still alive. The LES is still alive. I go to a couple of dope shows at SOBs and stuff. So it's just really a matter of like a lot of artists just training their like changing their thinking, about what music, what's your reality. I hear all the time about people talking about, you get a lot of New York artists that want to sound South. And it's just like production, like the sound of music is always going to evolve. Like it's always going to evolve. What was always different about New York was just that we just told our truth. You know what I'm saying? Like Molly Percocet, was never really our truth. He was getting money. Well, it depends on where he was from. It depends on where he was from. But like, like the city, like the New York scene was just really organic back in like Wu-Tang days. And they were just raw. Like, Nas, listening to Nas made me feel like I was in Queens. Like listening to Jay around that time made me feel like I could go out and get a brick. But, that was our reality. Now what happens is a lot of cats just try to like catch these trends. Well, I hear you if you try and get that quick little buck.
Do you feel somewhat responsible to like carry New York and, obviously with the legends that have came out of there before, like, do you feel any responsibility in that way?
Absolutely. I feel like especially for pushing the culture forward, you know what I'm saying? And like, I don't know, like I really stand for just being comfortable in your own skin. Like I just want to inspire, like, you know what I'm saying, for people to just go out there and make the music that you want to make. Like, you can't go out there and think that, you know, everyone is going to like every single song that you make. Like, so I go out there and I just do, you know, I do what it is that I love to do. You know what I'm saying? I make the music that I love to make, but it's organic. If it's one thing that you're not going to be able to say about my songs is that, like, it's no fabric. Whether I'm singing on a song or not, like, I'm telling my story. And that's the thing that I feel like a lot of cats need to get back to, is telling your reality.
Yeah, you mentioned like singing. I know you have a few different styles. How do you sort of like pick and choose when you're going to do which style, and sort of, is it just natural, or do you go into a project like saying I need to do X amount of these songs or these songs?
Nah, I'm gonna be honest with you. It's really just how I feel. Like, I go through my phases. So, you know, this year I was feeling this next project is gonna sound a little different. YBE will sound different because I was in a state of, like, life put me in this state of mind during this year. So, like, when I go into the lab, depends on the production and how I'm feeling. And based on that, that's when, I get a little Long Island in the system, and that's when we go ahead and get to it. And whatever comes out, you know what I'm saying? If it makes sense, it makes sense. If not, then we just keep working. Like, I'll go in there and lay down about 5 different references, but, you know, if it works, it works. If not, then we just keep going.
Who are some of the producers that, like, you're in the studio with on a regular basis?
Well, my main producer at this point is this kid named Beats by Eclipse. He's from Detroit, Michigan. Super dope. And it's like, I met him through llmind, pretty much. He was just a part of that community that looked up to Ill. And still does. But, you know, I met him during that time, and we just kept getting in our bag. So he sent me, like, the first batch of beats early on. And as the years went on, we just, like, developed our sound and, you know, kept working. So this last project, he went from like having maybe 5 joints on the project to now this last one, he did the whole joint.
Is it different working with him, like, when you're in the studio with him versus, like, when you guys did you get started, I'm assuming, like, over email, like, sending him, he would send you stuff and that kind of thing? Like, what's the difference between that sort of process and then in the studio?
Yeah, it's really different. Because I did, like, I would want for, like, the vibe, obviously, with your producer in the studio is going to be different. But we go back and forth. You know what I'm saying? We go really back and forth and stuff. But like a lot of my other, like, I got 2 other producers that's New York based. A kid named El Camino, and then my other man Effects, who was doing a lot of my early on stuff. He worked with this girl named Abir. But, like, you know, it's different working with them, and then obviously working with Eclipse, because, you know, he's, you know what I'm saying, he's a little bit further over. So, like, how we usually do it is, you know, he'll send me, like, a batch, and I just get to it, send it back to him, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, he'll send me back, you know, obviously I'll send him the session, and he'll, you know, work with the beat and make it just sound the way it should, basically the way it should sound.
And then obviously you're putting in your input as the track goes along and stuff. Yeah. We'll go through like 10 different, like, reference mixes back and forth, email like that. But we constantly on the phone and stuff. So, what's your writing style like? Are you just like a sit down and pen and padded, or are you kind of like in the studio going through the motions? Yeah, like I mean, I'll be writing that phone. You know, I write it down right in the phone. Depends on the type of track also. Because some tracks, you know, some production I'll want to give more thought to, and then some tracks is just a little bit more turned up to where I just go with the vibe, and I might say some shit off the top of the head to where, you know, I just go in there and just lay it down and fix it as we go. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So you released the Chris Ferg project last year. It's interesting. It's almost coming up on a year now. How's that project like sat with you? Like, how do you feel about it now that it's almost been a year?
Oh, I ain't gonna lie. Like, it was a good feeling to release that project because I was fresh out the llmind situation, and I was just ready to step out on my own. And that was the first one that, you know, I was able to executive produce and, you know, put out there and promote with just me and my squad. So I listened back to it. I still love it. I ain't gonna lie. I'll be thinking about re-releasing it and stuff, but we'll get to that. But like, I love it, you know, because what it did was it set off, it gained the attention that I wanted to gain to where, like, it's like, okay, people started to take me just a tad bit more seriously. So yeah, like I still love it. I still got a few joints on there that, like, they love it. Just Like That record that I got with the girl named Dope by Accident. Like, you know what I'm saying? I got Treat Me Like a King is still one of my favorite joints that I ever done. So, you know, it's definitely, I definitely feel good about it. Yep.
You referenced the Chris Ferg project. Before that, you were kind of like under llmind. Was he kind of more executive producing your stuff and kind of telling you like, hey, kind of do this and do that? Or what was that relationship at that time?
At that time, he definitely was executive producing. But I still was selecting. He wasn't selecting my tracks and nothing like that, right? Like, we'll go in there, and I might have walked into his lab, and he might be cooking up something. I'm like, oh, that's going to sound, that sound fire. He'll, you know what I'm saying? We'll get on it like that. So yeah, like he, you know, that was pretty much the role. I still wrote my own stuff. I always write my own stuff. And yeah, like as far as track listing, that was together. We all did that together, putting everything together, like the tracks together and stuff like that in the order. You know what I'm saying? So it was just a little bit, I had a wider team with llmind. So yeah, that was pretty much the only difference though. Other than that, everything that I learned over there, I was just able to apply to how that process of putting together a project goes.
You guys still have a good relationship?
Absolutely. Okay. But you know, work is work. You know, Kyrie had to get out of Cleveland.
Yeah. I bet you he's glad he did.
Yeah.
Shit. Yeah, he lit. You know, so Kyrie had to get out of Cleveland. So, you know, that's Bronny over there.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you got to get out from under a wing, especially when, you know, you're under a guy that has such a name that he does, you know, for so long. Mm-hmm. You can only do that for so long, and then you got to kind of do your own thing there.
Yeah,
releasing Ferg project like on your own, I guess, is there any like sort of pitfalls you fell in or lessons you learned that like now that you're doing it again that you're like making sure to avoid?
Really just like rollout stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, the rollout is the most important thing that I'll tell any indie artist. Like, the rollout, just making sure that you got your team in place and having a plan for when you drop in certain things and you know, creating the moments. That's the only thing that I learned for this next one. And just really making sure that, like, nothing goes to waste. You know what I'm saying? You don't just drop it and then actually just pushing your stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, going out being out in the spots and letting people know that you got that dope. Like, yo, I just dropped this project and it's the lead single. And here, you got to listen to this. Like, really putting in the footwork. I don't think that, like, I was, you know, it was the first one on my own. So we didn't really, you know, if I could do it all over again, I definitely would have put more footwork in. It was just like, you know, we was just happy with putting it out and getting the bag off it. But we ain't looking at the other part, you know what I'm saying, which was, you know, you got to put the groundwork in. So that's why we set it up. You know, that's why we're here now.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of sort of rollout, you recently dropped a new song. Where they at? Tell us a little bit about that one and like how it fits into your larger plans.
Banger. That's it. Instant slapper. Like, it was just like, I went in there. I think it was the last one I recorded. It was actually the last song I recorded. Like, the Clips had sent me. He sent me another little batch. I might have heard that. No, he did send me a batch. I was in the lab on a Saturday, and it just came too natural. It was so fire that I was like, nah, I can't not put this on the project. I said, nah, let me go ahead and push this thing back. And I called the team up. I was just like, yo, we gotta push this joint back. I gotta add this song, yo. They're like, yo, well, send it to me. Send it. Everybody like, oh, no. Yeah, we definitely got to revamp this. So I went back to the drawing board, just pretty much reshaped the EP, what it was going to look like, readjusted the track listing and all that. And there we go. And I was like, nah, just because the way that song just go off is an instant like, okay, who is this? Mm-hmm. You know, and I'm at that point, at the point when I made that, I'm just at a different place, you know what I'm saying? So I learned new things about my voice, and that's where that came from.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned an EP. Is there anything sort of like, you want to talk about that a little bit? Like what can we expect from that? I guess when, you know, sort of where's that at?
Yeah, man. So the next EP dropping February 16th is YBE, Young Black Entrepreneur. And that is self-explanatory for the year, with the year that I had as far as just the moves that was being made. So basically, like, you know, I just wanted to tell my story. I feel like a lot more times than none, I was just so, like in the past, I was so worried about just making a certain type, like a certain kind of song that would resonate to people. But at the same time, I wasn't telling my story. And that's the same thing I was mentioning earlier about like New York artists. People didn't know me, right? Like if you search King Zeus, it looks lit, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I needed to touch the streets, and I needed the streets to feel me and know that, you know what I'm saying, I come from my family, like they need to know, who I am. And on this project, I touched on all that, man. Like I touched on like all of this stuff that a lot of cats that grew up in my generation, they can relate to. Like certain stories that they know about.
It's cool because you're kind of like laying a foundation, knowing that, that maybe you're not going to make it huge off this one project, but you at least have that foundation for when the time is right, for people to come back and revisit. We have to bring it up. You're obviously A AP Ferg's brother.
No, not my brother. That's my cousin.
cousin. All right.
Yeah.
What's the family situation like? Can you, any crazy things popping off with that? Anything you want to give us insight on? Maybe a cool story or two.
Well, the coolest story is the fact that like I have a little brother named Hunter Ferguson that's a dope director. I have like a lot of my family are really talented artists and stuff. So our relationship is the same as it always been. Like I'm soaking up so much game. Like I call them and I just soak up the game about like how to run your empire and stuff more than anything. So to have family in the game, like to be able to call at any given time, like it's a blessing and stuff. So and that's another thing. Like that's why it was so easy for me to step away from the ill situation, because it was like I was able to step away from that, it's because I had to grow and become the man I needed to become. So yeah, man, like, yeah. Self-explanatory. I know that was the Grant, that's why I didn't hide it on this next project, right? Because that's my story. That's who I am.
Definitely.
Yeah, I forget which track that I was
listening to.
You know what I'm
saying? Forget which track, like, yeah, people want to know you. They want to know what's going. They want to know who you are. I would never hide from family. So, that's my name. I can't help that. I was born to that.
Right.
Right.
All right, well, we talked about the EP. We'll let you get out of here. But first, we got 3 questions for you. What's like, you're going in the studio, what's like the one thing you got to do to get prepped for it? Do you like, drink a little bit, like smoke a little bit? What's your go-to to get ready for the studio?
Oh man. So, on the lab, getting ready to go to the lab, usually we stop off at the liquor store. We go pick up some spirits, preferably Montebello Long Island iced tea. Yeah. So we pick up a little bit of that. Then once we get there, we just get to it and vibe. Ain't really not too crazy. I'm not much of a smoker and all that. So
you listen to like music before you show up to the studio? You playing like some music, just like shit you're listening to? No.
Nah, I listen to, if anything, I'm listening to probably like a beat that I'm about to mess with or something like that. But other than that, I'm not really, I don't really sit there and do that. Like, because when I get to the speaker, like when I get to the lab, I want to hear it on the speakers anyway.
Yeah. If you had a place that you could record, could be anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Africa.
That's a good answer. We haven't had that yet.
Yeah.
We had like a lot of forest answers, but
well, I feel like a lot of artists like go to Africa and come back like really changed. Like I know Rhapsody did it. I know like Ninth did it. And I think someone else went over there. So that's a pretty good. Is it last question here? I know you're an NBA fan. We talked about it a little bit. You got a song called Westbrook. I'm just curious if you have your finals NBA finals locked in yet. What's your prediction?
Oh man, well you can't really ask me that because I'm a San Antonio Spurs fan, and we not a little too shabby right now because I'm hearing that Kawhi went out. So like I really don't. You know what I'm saying? Like NBA finals, talk to me. Usually I tell everybody talk to me in June when we get to figure that out. But if I had to like pick any 2 teams right now, I might sound like a bird. I might sound like a bandwagon person, but I watched that Boston Celtics and Golden State game. And that felt like the NBA Finals to me. So I have to go with the favorites on that one.
Yeah, I think that's everyone's pick right now. I might be on the board with the Rockets though. I think they might be able to take down Warrior?
I want to believe in the Rockets. I do, but it's just something about that little machine that they got over there with Golden State. Come on, man. It's just a little too beastie right now. And if anybody had them, we did. But Kawhi, he not looking too good. So I can't go with anybody else.
There's so much drama going on in the NBA right now. Who knows what it'll look like?
Yeah, I can't go with it. And then you know what? I want to say that you can't like rule out LeBron because you can't negate that. What is it, like eight finals in a row?
Mm-hmm. But they're
you can't negate that. Like he's like Bowser, you know what I'm saying? Like he's like the last game. You feel me? Like he's like the last stage, like Raiden or something like that on Mortal Kombat. Like you gotta beat him. You feel me? And so until somebody beats him, then I almost could say that he could be right back in the finals.
Word. Well, you said give us the date and the name of the project again.
So the next project is called YBE, Young Black Entrepreneur, and it's coming out February 16th. Available everywhere.
Socials, where can you want to give us your handle so fans can follow you?
Absolutely. So follow me on Instagram, Zeus Ferguson. So that's Z3us, FERG, Follow me on Twitter, The King Zeus, Z3us. You can follow me on SoundCloud. You know what I'm saying? You listen to SoundCloud, King Zeus, Z3us. Everything Z3us, I'll pop up.
This is the genius, Chris Calico. Cali, baby. Letting you know you're tuned into Tech Nine's Independent Grind on Dash Radio.